Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever met someone whose silence speaks louder than every word ever thrown at them? The kind of silence that makes you stop, question, and feel because it's not weakness, it's power. It's the kind of silence that holds stories too heavy for sound, strength too deep for speech. You see, sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can say is nothing at all. Because her silence isn't empty, it's full of everything her heart has learned, everything her soul has survived, and everything her spirit refuses to explain anymore. Her silence says everything her heart can't. You see, there's a kind of power that doesn't need words to be understood. It's the power that sits quietly in the room while everyone else is trying to prove themselves. It's the strength that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, doesn't explain because it knows the truth doesn't need to fight to be real. That's what her silence is. It's not weakness. It's not surrender. It's mastery. It's control. It's the decision to no longer waste energy where it's not respected or heard. Because sometimes the loudest statement a woman can make is to say nothing at all. You learn, after a while, that speaking to walls never builds doors. You can pour your soul into conversations that go nowhere. You can explain your pain to people who only listen to respond. You can defend yourself to those who have already decided what they want to believe. And then, one day, you stop. Not because you've given up, but because you've grown. Because you realize your peace is more important than being understood. Her silence is not the absence of words, it's the presence of boundaries. It's choosing not to bleed emotions where they are only met with indifference. Every woman who's ever held her tongue when she wanted to scream knows this strength. She knows what it means to bite back tears in the middle of chaos, to keep her composure when her soul feels like it's cracking open, to walk away without giving them the satisfaction of seeing her break. That's power. That's grace. That's what silence becomes when it's owned by someone who refuses to be diminished. Her silence speaks of battles she's fought and scars she hides behind calm eyes. It tells the story of nights spent talking to God instead of people. It whispers of disappointment, betrayal, lessons, and resilience. The world often misunderstands silence. People think it means she has nothing to say, that she's fragile or afraid. But those who truly understand her know better. They know silence is her weapon. It's her armor. Because when she stops explaining, she starts observing. When she stops defending, she starts rebuilding. And when she stops talking, that's when she starts rising. You can't manipulate someone who no longer reacts. You can't hurt someone who no longer engages. Her silence is not a void, it's evolution. There comes a time when she realizes that peace is louder than chaos, that her energy is sacred, that not every situation deserves her response. So she stays quiet, not because she doesn't care, but because she finally does. She cares about her mental space, her spirit, her healing. She's done fighting battles that drain her light. She's done repeating herself to those who never really listened. Silence becomes her reset. Her quiet moments are where she regains her strength, where she rewires her mind, where she prepares for her next move. Because silence is not the end. It's the pause before the comeback. You can tell a lot about a woman by the way she handles her silence. Some people fall apart when they're quiet because they're afraid of what they'll hear inside their own minds. But she embraces it. She knows silence is not loneliness, it's clarity. It's the place where she sorts through the noise, finds her truth, and reclaims her power. When she stops talking, she starts thinking. When she stops trying to be understood, she starts understanding herself. And that's where transformation begins. The most dangerous woman in the room is not the one who yells or demands attention. It's the one who listens, the one who watches, the one who keeps her emotions controlled while her mind calculates her next step. That kind of composure intimidates people who thrive on chaos, because they can't control what they can't read. They don't know what she's thinking, what she's planning, what she's capable of, and that unpredictability becomes her advantage. Silence becomes her superpower. It's the calm before a storm that no one sees coming. Her silence speaks volumes of self-respect. It's her way of saying, I don't owe explanations where trust should have already existed. It's how she refuses to justify her worth to anyone. When she chooses silence, she's not withdrawing, she's reclaiming control. She's taking her energy back from the noise of opinions and putting it into her own growth. She's not running away from confrontation. She's simply refusing to fight battles beneath her. Because she knows real power doesn't need validation, it just is. There's a certain elegance in restraint, in knowing you could destroy someone with truth but choosing not to. in knowing you could argue and win, but realizing the victory isn't worth your peace. Silence, in her world, isn't passive, it's strategic. It's how she filters what deserves her voice and what doesn't. It's her reminder that not every reaction deserves her response, because maturity teaches you that not everything needs to be said. Some things are better left to silence, to time, to karma. And when she walks away silently, it's not because she's weak, it's because she's wise. She's learned that walking away doesn't mean she's lost. It means she's done participating in her own suffering. It means she's ready to let life handle what words never could. It means she's finally putting herself first. Silence is her closure, her protection, her healing. The world may not notice it, but that silence carries more power than any speech ever could. She's learned that silence is the response people don't know how to handle. They expect a reaction, a defense, an explosion. But when they get nothing, no emotion, no words, no validation, it disarms them. Because silence forces them to face themselves, to sit with their guilt, their actions, their conscience. Her silence becomes the mirror they didn't want to look into. And that's why it's so powerful. Because sometimes, the only way to win is not to play. In her quiet, she rebuilds herself. She turns her pain into purpose, her wounds into wisdom, her disappointments into discipline. She stops wasting words on those who never deserved her voice and starts speaking only to her future. She learns that the only dialogue worth having is the one between her and her destiny. The rest she leaves in silence, because she knows that growth is quiet, healing is quiet, evolution is quiet. The noise comes later when she returns stronger, unrecognizable, untouchable. Her silence says, "I've seen enough, I've felt enough, I've given enough. Now I'm choosing myself." It says, "I no longer need to prove my loyalty, my love, or my pain to anyone." It says, "I'm not who I used to be. I've outgrown the need for explanations. I've outgrown the need to be understood. I've outgrown the need to be accepted." Her silence is not an ending, it's a declaration that she's free. Free from chaos, free from expectations, free from the noise that once defined her. And when you truly listen to her silence, you'll hear everything her heart has been holding. The unspoken goodbyes, the quiet strength, the self-respect that now outweighs her desire to be heard. It's not that she can't speak, it's that she no longer needs to. Her silence is her statement. Her stillness is her power. Her peace is her protest. And in that silence, she becomes everything she was always meant to be: strong, unshakable, and free. And in that silence, something begins to shift. What once felt like emptiness begins to feel like alignment. What once felt like loneliness transforms into peace. Because silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of understanding. It's the space where she reconnects with herself, where she learns to trust her instincts again, where she starts to rebuild her life from the inside out. The world around her may still be chaotic, but inside, she's calm. Her silence becomes her sanctuary, a sacred place where she doesn't need to perform, defend, or explain. She just exists as she truly is. There's a certain beauty in becoming comfortable with silence. It means she's no longer seeking constant validation. It means she's no longer afraid of the quiet, no longer filling every pause with apologies or justifications. It means she's finally okay with who she is, even when no one is watching, even when no one is listening. That's what growth looks like, not louder confidence, but quieter certainty. It's knowing she doesn't have to prove her worth to anyone. It's realizing her value doesn't come from what she gives, but from who she is when she gives nothing at all. In silence, she learns to hear her intuition clearly. That quiet voice that had been drowned out by everyone else's opinions finally becomes audible. And it tells her the truth she always knew deep down, that she was never too much. She was just surrounded by people who couldn't handle depth. That she was never cold. She was just protecting her warmth from those who didn't value it. That she was never weak. She was simply tired of fighting battles that were never hers to win. In that stillness, she learns the art of listening to herself, to her boundaries, to her spirit. The power of silence is that it demands presence. It forces her to slow down, to see things as they really are, to feel what she's been avoiding. There's no distraction there, no noise to hide behind. Just truth. And sometimes that truth is painful, but she faces it, because she knows running from it keeps her trapped in the same cycles. So she sits with the discomfort. She lets it teach her. She learns that healing isn't loud, it's the quiet decision, every day, to choose peace over chaos, to choose growth over resentment, to choose herself over approval. The more she embraces silence, the more she sees how rare it is in a world addicted to noise. Everyone wants to be seen, heard, validated. But few are willing to be still, to listen, to simply be. Her silence becomes a mirror that reflects people's intentions. Those who truly care will understand it. They'll respect the space she takes. Those who don't will grow impatient, frustrated, threatened. Silence reveals everything words can't. It shows who's aligned with her peace and who's drawn to her pain. It shows who values her presence and who only valued her reactions. She starts to realize that her silence is not just about protection, it's about power. Because silence gives her perspective, it allows her to see patterns she once ignored, to understand motives she once excused. She begins to see that every time she responded to disrespect, every time she defended her truth, she was handing over her energy. But now, by staying silent, she keeps her energy where it belongs with herself. And that shift changes everything. She's no longer reactive. She's intentional. She doesn't waste words anymore. When she speaks, it's purposeful, it's measured, it carries weight. Silence sharpens her discernment. It teaches her to differentiate between noise and truth, between attention and respect, between connection and attachment. She learns that silence isn't about isolation, it's about preservation. It's about guarding what's sacred. Because not everyone deserves access to her thoughts, her emotions, her inner world. Silence becomes her filter. It protects her from manipulation, from misunderstanding, from energy that drains instead of fuels. She becomes selective not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. There's something profoundly empowering about not reacting. The world conditions people to respond instantly, to defend, to explain, to argue. But silence breaks that cycle. When she doesn't respond, she's not letting someone win. She's choosing not to lose herself. She's not ignoring what happened. She's refusing to feed what doesn't deserve her attention. That's the kind of control most people never master. Because true strength is not in confrontation, it's in restraint. It's in knowing you could, but deciding you won't. And that silence becomes magnetic. It draws in curiosity, respect, and sometimes even fear. Because silence leaves room for mystery. It makes people wonder what she's thinking, what she's planning, what she knows that they don't. They can't predict her anymore. They can't manipulate her reactions. Her silence makes her unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. When you no longer react on cue, you take back control of the narrative. You decide the pace. You decide the tone. You decide what deserves your energy. That's the kind of dominance silence gives: quiet, graceful, untouchable. In her quiet moments, she learns to redirect her focus. Instead of trying to be understood by others, she starts to understand herself. Instead of explaining her worth, she starts embodying it. Instead of chasing clarity from others, she creates it within herself. Silence gives her time to think, to rebuild, to strategize. Every moment she's quiet on the outside, she's working on the inside, reorganizing her priorities, strengthening her boundaries, realigning her purpose. Her silence is not stagnation, it's incubation. It's where growth happens before the breakthrough. She learns to move differently, to observe before she engages, to respond instead of react, to value peace over participation. Silence teaches her emotional discipline. It reminds her that not everything deserves her words, and not everyone deserves her access. It reminds her that her voice is powerful, but that it becomes more powerful when used wisely. She doesn't speak to be heard anymore, she speaks to be understood. And when silence becomes her default, her words gain impact, because now, when she does speak, people listen. There's an unspoken elegance in this kind of composure. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. It's knowing that calm is stronger than chaos. That stillness doesn't mean she's not feeling it, means she's mastering what she feels. Silence has taught her to respond with intention, not impulse. It's taught her to find peace in pauses, to use time as her ally. Because silence stretches moments, it gives her perspective, patience, and power. And in that stillness, she starts to attract differently. The people who once fed off her reactions fade away. The situations that once drained her lose their pull. Because her silence no longer invites drama, it sets boundaries. It draws in those who move with the same steadiness, the same purpose, the same self-awareness. She's no longer resonating with noise, she's resonating with peace. And peace doesn't chase, it attracts. Through silence, she also learns forgiveness, not the kind that excuses what happened, but the kind that frees her from it. Forgiveness is quiet. It's not about telling someone they're forgiven. It's about no longer needing to carry the weight of their actions. It's about walking away with grace, not bitterness. Silence becomes the language of letting go. Because when she no longer speaks about it, it no longer owns her. That's when healing takes root, when silence becomes the sound of release. She realizes that the world doesn't reward the loudest voice. It rewards the most grounded one. Those who stay calm in the storm. Those who can hold their composure when everything else falls apart. Those are the ones who endure. Silence becomes her discipline. It's what keeps her anchored when emotions want to take control. It's what reminds her that she's not obligated to respond to chaos. She can choose to walk away. She can choose peace. And that choice, again and again, shapes the life she's meant to live. Her silence says everything her heart can't, but it also says everything her heart has learned. It speaks of growth, of wisdom, of restraint. It speaks of knowing that not every truth needs to be spoken to be real. It speaks of strength that doesn't announce itself, but can be felt in every calm step, every unspoken boundary, every quiet decision to protect her peace. Because silence is not the absence of expression, it's the evolution of it. It's when she no longer needs to tell her story for people to feel it. Her silence becomes her legacy, her strength, her freedom. Because freedom, once found in silence, becomes something she'll never trade again. When she has tasted peace after chaos, she understands why stillness is sacred. There's no need to shout for attention when she's already whole within herself. The validation that once fueled her now feels irrelevant. She no longer needs anyone to tell her who she is or what she's worth. Her silence has already told her everything she needed to know. It has become her teacher, her protector, and her weapon all at once. It reminds her that calm is not complacency, it's confidence. It's knowing that she can face any storm without losing her center. And through that silence, she begins to master patience. The kind of patience that doesn't come from waiting for something to happen, but from trusting that what's meant for her will arrive when she's ready. She's learned to sit with uncertainty without demanding answers. She no longer rushes healing or chases closure. She understands that silence itself often brings the closure words never could. In the stillness, the truth unfolds naturally. She sees that some things resolve not through conversation, but through distance. Not through explanation, but through understanding. Not through confrontation, but through peace. Her silence becomes the soil where transformation grows. It's in those quiet spaces that she rebuilds the parts of herself that were once broken. She learns to enjoy her own company again, to take comfort in solitude instead of fearing it. She starts creating a life that feels like home instead of a performance. Every quiet morning, every reflective night, adds another brick to the foundation of her strength. She doesn't need to announce this evolution, it's visible in her presence. The way she moves, the way she looks at the world with eyes that have seen too much, yet still hold calm. When silence becomes her ally, she no longer confuses stillness with stagnation. She realizes that growth doesn't always look like motion. Sometimes it's internal, sometimes it's unseen. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's inactive. The most powerful changes often happen in silence, roots growing underground before a tree breaks the surface. Her silence holds that same energy. It's the invisible rebuilding that later becomes undeniable strength. She's not lost, she's preparing. Not defeated, just refining. Every quiet moment is a step forward, even if the world can't see it yet. In that silence, she starts seeing people differently. She notices who truly listens and who only waits for their turn to speak. She observes who respects her space and who tries to invade it. Silence has sharpened her instincts. She can feel energy before words are even spoken. That's the kind of awareness only solitude can teach. When you're no longer distracted by noise, you start to see the truth of everything and everyone around you. The masks fall, the patterns reveal themselves. She no longer reacts to surface behavior. She reads intention, and when she knows intention, she knows how to protect her peace. She's learned to respond less and observe more. Not every situation deserves her energy. Not every comment needs her correction. Not every misunderstanding requires her defense. Silence has taught her that some things are better left unanswered, because the moment she replies, she hands over her power. There's strength in simply knowing the truth and keeping it to herself. Not every truth needs to be spoken aloud. Some truths are meant to be lived, not explained. She lets her silence do the speaking now, because silence carries a weight that noise never will. And she notices something else. The more she embraces silence, the more she attracts calmness around her. It's as though the energy she carries dictates the energy she receives. Her quiet confidence disarms chaos. People sense her peace and either rise to meet it or fade away because they can't match it. Silence creates a natural boundary without her having to say a word. It's the unspoken line that separates what nourishes her from what drains her. She's no longer begging people to treat her right. Her silence makes them aware of how they should, and if they don't, she walks away without explanation. There's a quiet revolution in that kind of control. To be silent when provoked, to be calm when tested, to be grounded when everything around you tries to pull you off balance, that's not weakness. That's power refined. It's emotional discipline, the highest form of self-respect. It means she's mastered herself. She's no longer driven by impulse or emotion. Her reactions are deliberate. Her peace is protected. Her silence is her strategy. She's learned that not everything needs to be won through words. Some victories come through grace. Silence has also taught her self-trust, because when you stop explaining yourself to everyone else, you start listening to yourself. She now trusts her decisions without needing validation. She trusts her timing without doubting the process. She trusts her instincts without seeking reassurance. That's what happens when you spend enough time in silence. You stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward. And inside, she finds a strength that doesn't waver when life tests her. She knows who she is, what she stands for, and what she'll no longer tolerate. In her silence, she's discovered that healing is not about forgetting, it's about reclaiming. It's about taking back the power from everything that once broke her. She no longer needs to tell her story to everyone. Her peace tells it for her. Every calm breath, every quiet choice, every unbothered reaction says, "I've healed." She doesn't need to prove that she's moved on. Her silence proves it. Because silence is what remains after all the noise has been processed, after the chaos has been understood, after the pain has been released. She's learned to find beauty in simplicity again. The sound of her own breath, the rhythm of her steps, the peace in doing nothing, the calm in knowing she doesn't have to be on all the time. Her silence reconnects her to the present moment, where life is real. It reminds her that joy doesn't always come from excitement. It often comes from quiet gratitude, from knowing she's okay, from realizing she doesn't need to chase anything to feel complete. Her silence becomes her joy, her form of meditation, her declaration that she's finally free from the noise that once consumed her. The deeper her silence becomes, the more she notices that others start to project onto it. They'll wonder what she's thinking, why she's so calm, what she knows that they don't. And that's fine. She doesn't need to correct their assumptions. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. That's the power of silence. It makes people curious, sometimes even uncomfortable. But she doesn't owe anyone clarity. Her silence isn't about them, it's about her. It's the space she's created to preserve her energy, her dignity, her sanity. She understands now that silence doesn't always mean peace at first. Sometimes it feels heavy because it holds all the emotions she's never voiced. But over time, that silence becomes cleansing. It allows her to process those emotions without judgment, without interruption, and in doing so, she releases them. The weight begins to lift. The quiet that once felt lonely now feels empowering. It's not that she doesn't feel deeply anymore, it's that she no longer needs to express every feeling to be understood. She understands herself now, and that's enough. In a world that rewards noise, choosing silence is rebellion. It's saying, I don't need to prove myself to be powerful. It's standing tall without shouting. It's knowing that her presence alone is enough to shift energy in a room. Silence has given her back her autonomy. It's reminded her that she decides when and how to engage. She decides what deserves her voice. She decides what deserves her reaction. She's no longer accessible to everything and everyone, and that's not arrogance. That's wisdom. And through all of this, she begins to embody a different kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. People sense it in the way she carries herself, in the calmness of her tone, in the steadiness of her gaze. Her silence holds authority. It commands respect without demanding it. It says, I know my worth. It says, I choose peace. It says, I'm not here to prove, I'm here to live. And when you reach that point, where silence becomes your language, nothing and no one can shake you anymore. Because silence has already taught you everything words could never explain. Because once silence becomes her foundation, every step she takes afterward carries intention. She no longer moves through life reacting, she moves with awareness. Every word, every action, every decision is guided by clarity instead of impulse. She understands that silence has shaped her into someone who no longer rushes to be understood. She chooses to be at peace with being misunderstood. Because peace is not found in convincing others of your truth. It's found in standing firmly in it, even when no one else sees it. That's the quiet confidence silence gives. It's not about being right in their eyes. It's about being right within yourself. Through silence, she's learned that healing doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it's as subtle as choosing not to check that message, not to revisit that memory, not to reopen that wound. Healing often looks like restraint, not reaction. It's the soft choice to keep moving forward without announcing it. The world might never know how many battles she fought in the quiet of her mind, how many nights she talked herself out of falling apart, but that's the beauty of it. Silence doesn't seek recognition. It's enough that she knows what it took to get here. Every quiet moment becomes a reflection of the growth she's earned. She no longer seeks closure from others because she's found it within herself. She no longer needs to explain her distance because those who understand peace never question silence. She's realized that people who truly care will hear her even when she says nothing. Those are the ones who listen beyond words, who understand that silence can mean strength, exhaustion, reflection, or rebirth. And those who don't understand, she's finally learned to let them go without resentment. Her silence has become her boundary. It's not about cutting people off, it's about cutting off access to her peace. She's not building walls, she's building gates. Only those who knock with respect get in. Silence taught her that protection isn't about isolation, it's about intentional access. Because peace is precious, and not everyone knows how to handle it. She's no longer afraid to say nothing when everything around her demands reaction. Silence gives her control. It allows her to pause, to choose, to breathe. It's no longer about winning arguments, it's about preserving energy. She's found that silence doesn't mean weakness in the face of confrontation, it means she's operating on a different frequency. She's not avoiding conflict, she's refusing to feed it. She's not ignoring disrespect, she's acknowledging that not everyone deserves a response. Silence has become her language of power, her way of saying, I see everything, but I choose peace anyway. That's not indifference, it's mastery. Because emotional control is not about suppressing what you feel, it's about directing it wisely. She's learned to express her strength through calmness, and that calmness shakes the world far more than rage ever could. There's a serenity in knowing she no longer owes anyone chaos. She doesn't need to explain, justify, or perform. She stopped trying to convince others of her worth, because her silence already speaks it. It says, I'm enough. It says, I don't need permission to be at peace. It says, you can misunderstand me, but you'll never disrupt me. Silence has become her identity not as a defense mechanism, but as a reflection of maturity. It's how she honors the version of herself that used to fight to be heard. Her silence also carries wisdom. It holds all the lessons she's gathered from pain, the understanding that not every loss is failure, not every goodbye is tragedy, and not every ending is defeat. Silence helps her see that endings are simply space, being made for beginnings. It teaches her patience in transition, because when she's quiet, she can finally feel the subtle shifts, the way her life is realigning, the way peace is returning, the way she's transforming. She no longer rushes the process. Silence has taught her to trust timing, to surrender control, and to let life unfold. In those quiet hours when the world is asleep, she sits with her thoughts and realizes how far she's come. The girl who once needed to be understood has become the woman who's content in her own understanding. The person who once felt unseen has learned that being unseen can be the greatest advantage because it allows her to grow without interference, to heal without judgment, to rebuild without noise. Silence has given her the freedom to evolve privately. Not everything needs to be public, not every chapter needs to be shared. Some victories are meant to be felt, not flaunted. And through that evolution, she's realized that silence doesn't isolate, it elevates. It connects her to something deeper, something beyond the constant noise of the world. In silence, she's learned to listen not just to herself but to life. She notices patterns, synchronicities, signs she used to overlook when she was distracted. Silence sharpens her awareness. It helps her see that everything she needs has been within her all along. She's not missing anything. She's just learning to tune out what doesn't matter so she can hear what truly does. The more she embraces silence, the less she seeks validation from noise. Social approval, opinions, criticism, they lose their grip on her. Silence becomes her shield against judgment. She doesn't react to every whisper or opinion thrown her way because she understands that people will always talk, but peace is found in not caring. Her silence is her answer to everything that doesn't deserve her attention. It's her reminder that self-control is the highest form of self-love. Because when you can master your reaction, no one can master you. And in mastering herself, she discovers a new kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be loud. It's not in her words, it's in her energy. It's in the way she carries herself, the way she looks unshaken even in storms, the way she can walk away without looking back. That's the kind of strength silence builds, quiet, steady, undeniable. People feel it before she even speaks. It's the presence of someone who's at peace with who she is and no longer needs external confirmation to feel worthy. She's also learned that silence doesn't mean absence of love, it means choosing love that doesn't cost her peace. She doesn't beg, chase, or plead anymore. She's learned that genuine connection doesn't demand explanations, it understands them without words. Silence has taught her that the right people will never need her to shout to be heard. They'll feel her even when she's quiet. They'll respect her boundaries instead of testing them. And that's how she now recognizes real love from its calmness, not its chaos. Her silence speaks of grace under fire. It shows that even when she could respond with anger, she chooses control. Even when she could expose, she chooses dignity. Even when she could scream the truth, she chooses peace. That doesn't mean she's suppressing, it means she's ascending. She's no longer engaging in battles that would require her to step down from her peace to prove her strength. She knows who she is now, and she knows that silence sometimes delivers the message more clearly than words ever could. There's also a quiet rebellion in her silence. It's her refusal to let the world dictate how she should react. It's her way of saying, I won't play by your noise. She's rewriting her story in calm ink, building her future in stillness. Every time she stays silent in a situation that once would have shattered her, she's reclaiming a piece of her power. Every unspoken reaction is a victory. Every calm breath is proof that she's no longer the same. Silence is how she wins now, not through force, but through grace. She's realized that silence is not the end of expression, it's the evolution of it. Words may explain her thoughts, but silence reveals her growth. It's the language of the unbreakable, the healed, the self-aware. Silence has made her realize that not everything deserves an audience, and not every feeling needs a stage. True power doesn't demand to be witnessed, it simply exists. So she moves through the world quietly now, not because she's hiding, but because she's finally free. Her silence says what her voice no longer needs to, and that message, carried in calmness, will echo louder than any sound ever could.